Hi, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. I can already tell that it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good episode. I am delighted to be talking with author Alan Katz on this episode. Alan, thank you for jumping in and thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you. You've already said nice things. How can I not be here?
Well, absolutely. That's what I do. I get you in with all of the compliments and all of the nice things, and then I ask the hard-hitting questions.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Yeah. No, not at all. Not at all. Tend to ask the, book related questions. That
Hmm.
tends to be a big part of what we talk about because I am reading teacher kind of person.
Well,
So
it
thank
does.
you for jumping on and talking with me about books today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got to ask about the background. It's a really interesting world that you're currently living in, including the doll on the bed and
Well, that's not just a doll, I got to tell you. And in fact, when I Zoom with kids sometimes, they go, "What's that creepy doll?" And that gets my blood boiling because that's Jerry. I
yes,
got Jerry when I was 4, so he's older than you are. And he's
hmm.
wearing a sweater that my mother made him.
Wow.
And she made me a matching sweater, but of course his still fits. And I would do puppet shows, ventriloquist shows every day in first grade, second grade, third grade. And if the kids cleaned up the lunchroom in time, they got to see me do an extemporaneous show with Jerry.
Wow.
So Jerry's with me. My family hates him. Everybody's creeped out by him, but he's with me, and he's part of my story. In fact, he is my story. Let's face it. I got nothing.
It's all Jerry. It's all
It's all
Jerry.
Jerry.
I
But
love
thank you for
that.
noticing. The room
Yeah.
itself, I'm on the second floor on a very bright, sunny block. And if I open those curtains,
Hmm.
um, it will be hit by a beam of light that's something out of a horror movie. So better to see me in the dark. And as long as you can, I'll move my head a lot so you can tell where I am. And I think that's the background. I like yours. Yours is, it's not real, right?
Right. No, it's not real. Uh,
Excellent.
my wife and I are both teachers, and so we have accumulated a collection of books that somewhere, I don't even know, it would be at least this big over the years. I think we've furnished a couple of classroom libraries at this
Nice.
point. So,
Nice. We downsized right before the pandemic and donated many, many, many of our books. So most of the books we have in the house are the ones I've written. So,
mhm.
so that's all right.
Yeah,
But I like
yeah.
your background, and I envy it as in a real life situation.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I aspire. I aspire to this background. I do have a lamp that looks sort of like that one. Let me figure out where it is in relationship to me. Yep, right over
Mhm.
there. But yeah. So that leads me to a question that's not on the list, which is, do you find that you like to look back at the books that you write? Because I struggle with that. I'm currently in the midst of editing a book that I wrote, and I'm just kind of like, I've read this. I don't know, that imposter syndrome kind of jumps in there. Is that something that's rewarding for you?
Yeah, I think so. I do enjoy that, and it's really funny because my first one, "Take Me Out of the Bathtub" and Other Silly Dilly Songs, turned 22 this year. And
Wow,
I'm now
wow.
hitting the point where when I visit schools, teachers are saying, "I grew up on that book."
Hmm.
It's one thing for people to have said over the years, "My kids love that book." But to find that there are teachers who grew up on it is wonderful. And why wouldn't I want to look back on that? I mean, there are a few
Yeah.
that if we spent an hour talking and I went over to the bookshelf, I wouldn't show you because they're just odd, or my son needed braces and I wrote that book.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but by and large, I'm proud of the collection. I just finished my 50th book.
Wow. Congrats. Congrats.
Thank you. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the collection. I'm proud of the fact that you can hold something in your hand. I've done a lot of TV writing,
Uh-huh.
and I'm really proud of that TV writing. I'm a 6-time daytime Emmy loser.
It's an honor to be nominated, right?
No, it's not. No, you got
Oh,
to,
oh.
I still have the tuxedo. In fact, my daughter's getting married next year, and I threatened to pull out the tuxedo from the 2002 daytime Emmys. And she's like, that's not happening. No, it was great to be nominated, but we would lose every year. I wrote for the Rosie O'Donnell show for 5 years.
Hmm.
And we would lose to things like, because these days there are a lot of talk shows, or there have previously been a lot of talk shows in the past years. So if we lost to The View or we lost to Ellen or something like that, those were not peers at the time. I understand. But there wasn't a talk show writing category. There was a special class category. One
Hmm.
year we lost to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
What?
Now, a 3 hour parade, with all due respect to those big balloons and Al Roker, a 3 hour parade versus 195 live episodes. I don't
Yeah,
think that's fair. We lost to Jeopardy many times. I lost for a Disney cartoon series that I wrote, and we lost to Batman. You can't beat Batman.
sure,
So it
sure.
wasn't apples and oranges, but that's fine. I have
Interesting.
certificates on the wall over there, and if I don't have a statue, I have a tuxedo.
Yeah, yeah. I've never watched a Thanksgiving Day parade and gotten to the end and thought, man, that writing was spot on. You
I
know,
mean,
it just,
you don't even think it's written, sort of. And that was the problem with Rosie. Everybody thought she made it up as she went along,
yeah.
which is a testament to her. But
Hmm.
there were folks in the background saying, say this, don't say that. And she contributed incredibly, more than probably any other host in television. But we were there, and
Yeah.
it didn't happen. But because I wrote a lot of funny songs for the Rosie show, she used to sing parodies almost every day. That
Uh-huh.
led to, I'll hold it up again, Take Me Out of the Bathtub and Other Silly Dilly Songs, the first of my 9 Silly Dilly songbooks,
Yes, yeah.
in which I take public domain tunes like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and turn them into Stinky Stinky Diaper Change, which you
Hmm.
think is just a reason to say diaper and stinky, but it's proven to be a great literacy tool
Yeah,
because you can
absolutely.
anticipate the rhyme. And I
Hmm.
love that. A lot of my books are used for educational purposes. And, my goal is to make kids laugh as hard as they can and love reading. But if
Yeah, I
somewhere
love it.
along the way it makes them better readers or more enthusiastic readers, fantastic.
Absolutely. You can't uh overstate the effect of really cool poems, songs. I know you've written a poetry collection,
Actually,
poems.
well, there's actually, oops,
Yep. Hmm.
I've got the whole pile here. I'll make a mess and then I'll clean it up later.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you have yours standing like this, but mine
Hmm.
are all on the desk. 100 poems. And, one of the things about poetry, my wife is a very gifted, serious poet. And I don't claim to be that. I claim to be somebody who likes to rhyme and likes to laugh. And there are poems in this book where, when I say, how many poets are there in the room, especially during National Poetry Month in April, no, kids don't raise their hand. I was at a
Hmm.
school, and a teacher, I said, hey, everybody, let's write a poem. And I walked up to the smartboard and I said, what word rhymes with cat? Not all poems rhyme, not all poems are funny, but
Hmm.
let's write a funny rhyming poem. And the teacher, the second grade teacher, this was in Brooklyn, New York, yelled from the back of the room, they can't rhyme. And I said, well, let's try. It threw me, but I said, let's try.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
said, what word rhymes with cat? Sounds like cat. And somebody said bat, and somebody said hat, and somebody said mat. Now, somebody said dog because that's a context, but it wasn't a rhyming word.
Right, right.
And we made a list and we wrote a poem. And after which he said, wow, I didn't think they could rhyme. And I said, well, I wasn't asking them to change a carburetor, with all due respect.
Hmm. Hmm.
She said, I had no idea they could rhyme. I left. I was very sad because who else knows who knows what else she thinks they can't do.
Yeah, yeah,
But
true.
we wrote a poem. So there are poems in here that, after I visit a school, kids write their own poems and send them to me. And I always say to educators, there's going to be hopefully just a handful of kids, because when I say to kids in the hallway at schools, what do you like to read? I often hear, I don't read. I don't like to read. I don't like to rhyme. It's a pain in the neck. I don't do that. And I
Hmm.
say, well, just find the right book and you'll love it. I
Oh yeah.
recommend Dan Gutman. I recommend, depending on the age, a lot of different people. Nick Brule's Bad Kitty is a great
Oh yeah.
starter.
Oh yeah.
And I'll say, just try. Now, there's a poem in this book that I will read to you, and you will never forget it for its simplicity and stupidity. But I have read this poem in schools, and then kids send me their own poem. I've probably gotten 50 of the same poem, frankly. But if I'm inspiring somebody because of my writing,
Yeah.
And I've made it clear, not all poems are funny, not all poems are rhyme. You can write something that will make people think or cry or learn. But here's my poem called The Lollipop. Stay with me on the poem called The Lollipop.
Yeah.
Lick, 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 lick. Lick, 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 stick. After all those licks, and here's the Ed Koren, the incredible Ed Koren
Love it.
illustration. Now, I have gotten poems saying, I liked your poem called The Lollipop. Here's my poem called The Ice Cream Cone. Lick,
Hmm.
lick, 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 plop. The scoop falls off. I love it so much. It doesn't surprise me anymore. But if my creativity inspired somebody else's, and suddenly they say, I can write poetry, that's why I'm there to say, if I can do it, you can do it. We all use the
Hmm.
same 26 letters of the alphabet. We all have stories to tell. I write a lot about my family, about things that happen in my family, things that came up that I go, wait a minute, that could be a book. I
Hmm.
don't steal from them, but I use our lives liberally. I say, you write it, you could do that too. If, kid will say, excuse me, kid will say, I skateboard. I say, I've never been on a skateboard. If somebody's going to write a book about a skateboard, it should be you. And they go, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, I know a lot about that.
Oh yeah.
Put it in words. And we unlock that in each other. I mean, that's what my teachers did for me, to be sure.
Love it. Love it. I'll pull in the literacy sidebar here. I need
Yeah.
like a special effect just to be like teachers look into fluency and what poetry does for fluency and songs. And then also for those that teach younger kids, phonemic awareness. It's
Sure.
absolutely those are big things. They're part of that complicated reading process. And wordplay is part of that. Plus it's fun. It is just fun.
Sure. Well, that's the basis for jokes. I just finished two joke books. They're coming out next year. And I love wordplay. I love the chance to take a word and use it in many different ways.
Hmm.
And kids love that too. Kids get that. And I think, the jokes, because what I don't want to do at question and answer time is turn it into a joke session.
Sure, sure.
But kids often have jokes that they've created, and they're not quite funny, but they're a
Hmm.
good use of understanding.
Hmm. Hmm.
A joke a boy told me in a school recently, what do you call a carpenter who misplaces one of his tools?
I don't know.
A
What
saw
was
loser. It's a
nice?
good joke.
That is a good joke.
That's a
Yeah.
good joke. I will, by the way, make the point, and it's another point I make to students, is it's really fun to make people laugh. It's a great
Hmm.
thing to do. It's a gift. It's showing kindness. But speaking of kindness, I will never
Hmm.
make a joke that hurts anybody's feelings.
Love
I
it.
don't care if it's
Love
the
it.
funniest joke ever written. If 1,000 people are laughing, but one kid feels bad because we made fun of their backpack or the way they play sports or the way they sing or anything like that, you're not going to hear it from me. You're not going to read it from me. And the
Love it.
teachers nod like bobbleheads because it's true. There's
Hmm.
enough humor in the world that you don't have to make fun. What it does do is take possibly my favorite wordplay joke ever out of the equation because I don't think this is a joke I can tell having fallen on my sword saying, don't make fun of other people.
Hmm.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Europe.
Europe. Who?
No, Europe who.
Ah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Great joke, but you'll never hear me say it. In fact, scrap that from what we just talked about.
All right. All right. I will edit that out.
You better.
All right. So I also wanted to ask you about some of the illustrations that accompany your work, and just curious what that's like for you as the author to put things out there and then to get things back in picture form from people like, and I might mispronounce his name, but David Catrell.
Yes, it's David, David. Yes.
Yes, great, great, great. I struggle with
um,
that one. I always
I'll
want
be
to say
honest with you.
David. Yeah, go
I'd
ahead.
be honest with you. We've done 10 books together.
Hmm.
He is a national treasure. I'm not sure if it's Cato or Catro either. And at this point in our friendship, I can't ask him.
Right.
But he is extraordinary, as are
Hmm.
all the illustrators I've worked with. And as you may know, I don't get to pick the illustrators. The closest it ever comes to my picking an illustrator on an upcoming book, my editor said, "Would you prefer him or her?" And they were two very different styles. And I don't even think I knew if it was a man or a woman. I think I knew it was like, do you like this illustrator or this illustrator? Um, and I think I like it that way. I get a chance to do what I do best with the
Mhm.
writing, and then they get to do what they do best. And I'm almost never part of the illustration process. I will say on that upcoming book, there's a moment at the end that's a very big surprise reveal ending. It's a
Mhm.
shock, hilarious, I think hilarious shock ending. And I didn't think the illustration was paying it off enough. So I did say, I think we need the hat in there too, because if we don't see the hat, we don't really know what just transpired. So the hat is being drawn in right now, but that's the
Yeah.
closest I ever come. I am grateful, awestruck, and beholden to every editor. This is my most recent book. Alex Willen, who you may know,
Mhm. Mhm.
Illinois-based illustrator who has written and illustrated books like Unicorns Are the Worst, Yetis Are the Worst. Um, he is astounding, and we just did a book. And I mentioned writing based on my kids. My son lived in Washington, D.C. at the time. We were in Connecticut, and he was on the train platform. True story. And he hugged me and he kissed me and he said, "I'll see you in a few weeks." And right before he hopped on the train, the train doors were open. He said, "Hey, Dad, got your nose." And he went like that and took my nose. I
Yep.
said,
Yep.
"Don't take my nose to DC." Well, I went back to the car. I took out a notebook because I always have a notebook with me. And I wrote down "Got Your Nose." And I went home and wrote a book that turned into
Love
"Got
it.
Your Nose." It's
Uh-huh.
the story of Grandpa playing "Got Your Nose" with Becky. He leaves. She laughs. He leaves. And she says, wait a minute. He did take my nose. And
Mm.
she's got to find him. And they chase through town and she finds him. And the nose runs away because, after all, noses run.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And they have to chase the nose. And it becomes a grandfather and granddaughter romp finding this rogue nose. He has gone above and beyond anything I could have pictured. You know, when you write something and it's black type on a white piece of paper, and
Mhm.
you say someday this is going to be a book I can hold in my hand. My expectations are he's going to do an awesome job, but I can't visualize it. I have no visual skills whatsoever. Having written 9 songbooks, I have no singing skills either. But I am so that's the only word beholden to the magical creation. And ironically, he said the hard part was letting the nose, finding the angle for the nose that let it run,
Ah, yeah. Uh-huh.
physically run through the woods and all that, through the town. So that was his challenge. And he found, here's my favorite spread, by the way.
Oh,
This
I love
woman
that.
says, "Look, there's a girl with no nose." And the other woman says, "Funny, I just saw a nose with no girl. It was a beautiful nose, too. If I could pick any nose, I'd certainly pick that one."
Love
So
it.
there's wordplay for you. But it's just been a delight. And Alex and I were together recently at a phenomenal event called Litapalooza that
Mhm.
Anderson Bookshop put together. It was 500 educators and 50 authors and illustrators just sharing a love of literacy. And it was 2 magical days. And I got to spend a couple hours with Alex, and I'll spend the rest of my life singing his praises because he's just awesome.
Love
As are
it.
all the illustrators I've worked with.
I also love that you said you keep a notebook with you wherever you
Mhm.
go. Love that.
I do. And I have it's really funny. I have, just the ordinary spiral notebook. I think I filled
Mhm.
60 of these last year. But
Wow.
somebody gave me these little composition notebooks that are
Hmm.
literally this large and spiral bound. And I keep them in my pocket. And I had one left at my last school visit. And when I turned around, a kid took it. And my first thought was, I got to get that back. And then I said, no, if they saw how important it was to me, let it be important to them.
Yeah.
And then I called my lawyer.
Right. Right. Of course, you can't let those things
And let
slide.
that
Of course
happen.
not. Yeah.
I did a presentation for senior citizens a few years ago, and I have a remote that allows the projector to change my slides. And a woman came up on a walker and said, "How did you change those slides?" And I said, "I have this remote. It's amazing. It's hooked to my computer." And then I was packing up and I said, "Did anybody see my remote?" They said, "That woman took it. The woman on the walker took it. What she thinks she's going to do with it?" But
Uh-huh.
she indeed took it, not the dongle that goes with the remote, but she
Right.
just
Right.
took the remote. So she's probably sitting there changing something, but
She's still changing your slides from
she's just
wherever she is.
the presentation goes wacky, and I don't know why. She's sitting there
Yeah.
in Stamford, Connecticut, going, "I want to see that slide."
Where is it? Yeah, I think what it is you're such a warm person and people just want to recreate the experience. And so they keep taking these pieces of the exchange away, the remote, the notebook. I think they're
How
taking these
nice of
artifacts of you.
how nice of you to say.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay.
So I love the look and the fun with Got Your Nose, and I have a sequel pitch if you can find a way to do it that's not too grotesque, which is Knuckle Sandwich. I used to have this exchange with my uh, grandfather when I was a kid, and he would always say, "Would you like a knuckle sandwich?" And I would say, "I'm allergic, thank you." And
Funny,
he loved that. He loved that.
funny.
So,
Funny. I will make note of that in my notebook. Thank you. This book ends with with Grandpa saying, "I'm so sorry, Becky. I apologize. I was just trying to have some silly fun." And she says, "That's okay, Grandpa. I had fun." He said, "Frankly, I had more fun than I've had in a really long time." And they say they love each other. And he says, "I would do it all again." And she says, "Oh, in that case, Grandpa, got your ear."
uh-huh,
And
uh-huh.
it starts again. The problem with Got Your Ear as a sequel is it's very similar.
Hmm.
So we've talked about You Stole My Heart, but of course there's no physical manifestation of You Stole My Heart.
Right.
So maybe it'll be more like, I've misappropriated your spleen or something like that. We'll have to.
Yes. Yeah. That's a catchy title. That is
Well,
very good. All right.
my
All
kids
right.
are enjoying this, and I've got pencil sharpeners that are shaped like noses that you
Love it.
stick the pencil up the nostril. So when you buy a copy of Got Your Nose at a signing, you get an actual nose pencil sharpener.
Love it. Love it. And I'll also add if you choose to make something out of knuckle sandwiches, you will not hear from my lawyer um, at all. That would be
I appreciate
that's
that. Well,
yours.
I would dedicate it to you or something. I'm
Oh,
out
well,
of good
thanks.
people to dedicate to. I've really dedicated. In fact, recently I accidentally dedicated two different books to the same new nephew.
Ah,
So I changed one because we don't like him that much.
right, right. You don't
He
want it to go to his head.
he spits up, he poops. It's not that special so far.
Nobody's perfect. Nobody's
I guess
perfect.
he's 11. No.
Um, so I wanted to ask about upcoming things that you can talk about, places where people can go, including school visits, things like that, because those are always good things to share. If
I
people
appreciate
watch
that.
this and want to
Well,
connect.
AlanKatzBooks.com, AlanKatz, books is easy.com is a place to go to see what's new, what's happening. I do a lot of school visits all around the country. I speak to pre-K through about fifth or sixth grade. Because I have a good TV experience, the fifth graders who go, "Oh, really? Picture books? We don't do picture books." Although
Although
I do have,
they
I
should.
don't have, I know they should. I have a short story collection that came out actually during the pandemic called Really Stupid Stories for Really Smart Kids.
Yes,
It's
yes.
20 short stories. You will learn nothing, but you will laugh. And in fact, I was at a book festival recently, and a mother was like, "You want that book? I'm not sure." And the kid said, "I have to have it. I have to have it."
Mhm.
And she was like, "I don't know if you need it." And my thought was, is he not smart enough for this book? Is that what you're telling him? He's not smart
Yeah,
enough to read really stupid stories?
yeah.
But it's 20 short stories, and I've had a ball with that. And in fact, in school visits, I showed the three different covers that were possible. They're basically color combinations. And I say, who would have picked this one? Who would have picked this one? Who would have picked this one? And the third one always wins. It's kind of a purple and pink combination. And I didn't pick that. I picked the center one, which is blue and orange. And I picked it solely because it's New York Mets colors, and I'm a rabid New York Mets fan.
Mhm,
So I
mhm.
probably would have sold a lot better had I gone away from the Mets and done that. But short stories are fun for kids because it's not like, there's been a whole thing in the news recently about how picture books, I mean, not picture books, middle grade chapter books are too long.
Mhm.
There's been pushback lately. Can we make books a little shorter? Well, picture books are certainly not a big bite to swallow. And chapter books, I mean, short story books, I'm finding the kids are reading one a night for 20
Uh-huh.
nights or two a night for 10 nights. The math gets very hard after that because when you go to three a night, you don't have a whole story. But
Right.
um, but that's good, so kids are enjoying that. I also did, I don't know if you know about these, but I did Babe Ruth, Thomas Edison, and Amelia
Yes.
Earhart.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You've seen the Who Was books. Well, I always figured there was a way to do Who Wasn't. And I did 3 books called Liographies, the absolutely untrue, totally made up, 100% fake life story of the world's greatest heroes. It's
Mm-hmm.
I think a 96-page book, and maybe it's shorter than that. And everything except the last chapter, I totally made up. There's no truth. He's still an inventor. Babe Ruth is still a ball player. Amelia Earhart is still an aviator. But I made it up just to be creative, not to lie to you. I'm not saying 1 + 1 is 3, which is wrong and misleading. I'm basically saying 1 + 1 is 17,412,006.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
After you laugh yourself silly, there's a final chapter that says, okay, now that you know the biography of this guy, here's the real facts and go find out more.
Love it.
So, what I'm hopefully doing is a public service that gets kids to say, I love to read, I love to laugh. And that he's pretty cool. I got to find out more. In the Babe Ruth book, I talk about how he visited kids in the hospital, which is true. But while there, he would often do unnecessary surgery on the kids, removing a kidney or a spleen for no good reason. And a reporter, and then he would pay a real doctor to put it back. And a reporter once said, isn't it hard removing a kidney or spleen without any medical training? And Babe said, no, hitting a fastball is hard. Removing a kidney is a piece of cake. And for good measure, he removed the reporter's kidney and had a piece of cake. Just there to make you laugh. So
Nice.
kids are
Nice.
enjoying them. And I'm getting a lot of letters saying, who's next? Who are we doing next?
I
So,
love it.
just to make kids laugh. We need more laughter.
We do. We do.
Not at the
Find joy in
expense,
life.
not at the expense of scientific learning, not at the expense of, you asked what's next. I wrote a book. In fact, I'd love your opinion on this as an educator.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wrote a picture book that is scientific STEM learning. There's
Love it.
some good actual learning in there,
Uh-huh.
but it is primarily or largely fart humor.
Love it.
And
I
I
think
have
that's
sent it
great.
to editors who have said, hands down, this is the funniest book I've ever read.
Uh-huh.
Cannot stop laughing. I'm paraphrasing. I cannot stop laughing. My kid wants me to read it to them every night, even though there are no pictures. We laugh ourselves silly. There has never been a read aloud like this, but I can't buy it because of the farts. So I've gotten 10 rejections that pretty much say the same thing.
Huh.
I was with David A. Kelly, a wonderful author. He does the Ballpark Mystery. He's got about 30 books there, Ballpark Mysteries. Got a new book coming out about playing golf on the moon, a picture book. He's awesome. And we were sitting at a book festival in a torrential downpour under a tent. And we were talking. I told him about this book. He said, make it burps. And burps
Mm-hmm.
would work too for the humor. Here's my question as an educator. Would you say burps are more acceptable than farts or take them both off the table, so to speak?
I think, one of those moments that you have to define yourself as an educator is when a kid accidentally or on purpose farts in your classroom. And you can either be embarrassed by it and treat it as though a fart is a mark on humanity that must never be uttered, or you can just laugh it off, normalize it, and move on. And I tend to more of that second one, more of that second one. So
We had a
that's just
moment when
me.
I was a kid. We had a moment we had company, and one of my kids, I won't, we have 4 kids, and I won't mention which one, but his name rhymes with Schmandrew, and
Hmm. Hmm.
farted really loudly at the table with some senior citizens at the table. And he said, oh, I'm so sorry. And I said, oh, no, it's fine. In fact, today I pay for farts like that. And I peeled out $1 and I gave it to him. And the other kid said, here's mine, here's mine, here's mine. And it diffused an embarrassing situation and
Hmm.
made it hilarious. It cost me $4. But I think farts are part of humor, sort of.
They are.
I mean,
They are.
they're not weapons. I mean, they
No.
could be used as weapons, I guess. But I don't know whether to give up on that book or to say, I got to find an editor who's got tenure, who's just not afraid to. But I believe it's that funny. I say it with no conceit. I believe it's that funny. And I believe it'll enhance kids' enjoyment of reading and creativity. If I
Yeah.
read one more of the book that says, it's Halloween, let's put on our costumes and parade in town and maybe someone will give us treats. Hooray for Halloween. Can't. I just,
Hmm. Ray Bradbury did it. Ray Bradbury did that one, and it was
yeah.
a really good one. So,
Yeah. I mean, there are many books, and that's, not everything has to be hilarious. I know that. But if we have a chance to make kids laugh and go, oh, I got to find another book. Look at Dan Gutman. Dan Gutman is a very dear friend.
hmm.
And I met him, this true story. My son Nathan, who's now 23, one of my twins, was a Dan Gutman nut. He would count the moments till the local bookstore had the next Dan Gutman book. And I had the chance to meet Dan Gutman at the Texas Librarian Association. I had a massive car accident.
Hmm.
Somebody flipped us. A speeding police car actually flipped us. We all walked out through the windshield happily and safely. This was over 10 years ago. And my back was killing me. I still got on a plane and I still went because I had to meet Dan Gutman. That's
Wow.
either how good a father I am or how big an idiot I am. I'm not sure. Dan has become a cherished friend. And when a kid reads a Dan Gutman book, they go, I got to have another one. I got to have another one. And there are now 50 My Weird School books. And there are, he does other books that engage and reach kids in a way that's just magical.
Yeah.
So how can you not want that for a reader? Yes,
True.
they're not the same thing as reading Hemingway,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I don't know why I picked Hemingway. But let's give kids the in and they'll find other things, I mean,
Absolutely.
it's like everybody likes dessert, but nobody has dessert for dinner,
Hmm. Hmm.
and if humor books are the dessert, and that leads to a healthy appetite. I'm not in my I'm making analogies that don't make sense right now.
I like
But
it though. I like it though. And sometimes I do have dessert for dinner. I'll
there you
confess.
go. There you
Yeah,
go.
I do.
But I mean, what's wrong with making a kid laugh themselves silly? I actually did. I'm going to show you this, and almost never nobody knows about these books. But my kids had workbooks. There's that kid Andrew again, and my son Andrew, and he would bring home worksheets that said if Alan has two buttons and Jason has two buttons, how many buttons do they have? And he'd say,
Hmm.
"Who's Alan? Who's Jason? Why am I counting buttons?" So
Hmm.
I actually we were in the babies. This is a true story. I was in the babies twin brothers, and I was in their room, and I said, "Okay, there's three dirty diapers. If Nathan makes three dirty diapers and David makes three dirty diapers, how many dirty diapers do they have?" And he said six. I said, "Wait a minute," and that turned into Stinky Thinking.
Ah, love it.
It's a
Love it.
workbook, but it's all boogers, farts, poops, and things like that. I played
Hmm.
Jeopardy duty. It's the number of toilets needed if all the Supreme Court justices have to make duty at the same time. Now, fundamentally, I'm saying how many Supreme Court justices they are. But if couching it that way gets you to think and learn, there's a page in here. It was illustrated, by the way, by Laurie Keller of Arnie the Donut fame,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
who is
yeah.
absolutely fantastic. But there's the 9 kids in the Bowling Brats nursery school. They all have diaper rash. You have to find the twins.
Love it.
So kids love this book. And I can't tell you how many parents were like, you're not getting that book, especially at book festivals. I'm not buying you that book. And the kids are like, well, please, please. And they buy it. And then I get a letter from the mom or dad saying, I got to tell you, we drove from Connecticut to Boston. I didn't hear from the kid for 3 hours except laughter, and he solved the whole book. Where's the second book?
Love
So,
it.
parents should be a little more open to letting their kids laugh at what kids find funny, I guess.
And
Sounds like
teachers
a
too.
campaign. I'm on no campaign.
And we are back from commercial break with Alan and Jerry. I really need to make some fake commercials to put in those moments. But welcome back. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
And you were talking about your workbook work, but I also wanted to mention Society of Substitutes and Awesome Achievers as two other titles that people can check out. Anything that you want to add about the workbook before we talk about
Well, no,
those
just
things?
that, Laurie Keller did the illustration, and you might be looking for a podcast based on stinky thinking in the
Love
coming
it.
future, as opposed to the past future, which doesn't make any sense at all.
Not yet, not yet. Although with technology at this point, I mean, who knows? So I'm going to screen share one of your other books because we've been
Mhm,
talking about liography, and that is this book, Awesome Achievers in Technology.
mhm.
And so just wanted to put that out there and recommend it for people that are interested in that nonfiction aspect, and love it.
I
Absolutely love it.
appreciate that. It's profiles of folks who have invented things that kids know, like the remote control, windshield wipers, the internet,
Hmm.
um, video games, and they're real life profiles. There I am, but they're
Hmm.
real
Hmm.
life profiles of these people. And then after each profile is some humor, certainly not making fun of their inventions, but having fun with how their inventions have changed my life. For example, there's also awesome achievers in science. And after you learn about the inventor of the microwave oven, a very inspiring story. There's some humor about how the microwave oven improves my life and how I can get back to doing other things because the popcorn only takes 2 minutes to make instead of six or whatever. So, there's some humor in there too. But for kids
Hmm.
who enjoy knowing more, one of the things I write humor, I mostly write nonfiction, excuse me, fiction, but I crave information.
Yeah,
I've written thousands and thousands of trivia questions. I've worked on game shows. I crave information. I was a lifeline for two different people on Millionaire. And I love information. So for kids who love information and knowing stuff, those are good books. So thank you for bringing those up.
absolutely, absolutely. And you may be the first person that I've talked to who was a lifeline on Millionaire, by the way, at least
It
that I know of.
it was actually very scary because it was for my boss.
Ah,
And I was the only one of her potential lifelines who worked for her and could lose my job if I were wrong.
no
Other people
pressure.
with family members. And they actually called and said, okay, she's in the hot seat. And if we call you with a question, let it ring 3 times before you pick it up. And we ask you a question and we lose the connection somehow.
Hmm.
Hang up, let it ring again 3 times, and we'll call you back with a different question. So I said, okay, so if I don't know the answer, I should just disconnect. And like, oh, nobody's ever asked that. Don't do that. Um, but I've written, on the Rosie O'Donnell show, I used to write a lot of the games. I've written, like I say, thousands and thousands of trivia questions, have developed game shows. So I crave information and probably should use that for writing more nonfiction books. But I'm having
Yeah.
fun with fiction. I'm having fun, making kids laugh.
Love it, love it. And I'll mention Society of Substitutes in part because it reminds me of a kid series that I read growing up by Bruce Coville. My Teacher is an Alien. Just the fun of imagining this different world that's happening in this school setting and school world that you kind of have to be part of as a kid. You
Mhm.
generally have to, unless you're homeschooled. And so I love the creativity of that
Well,
series
thank
as
you.
well.
Any sentence that includes my name and Bruce Coville's is extraordinary. He's just a national treasure and one of the best authors ever. Yeah, the Society of Substitutes, they're available in paperback and hardcover. Here's two of them. There are five of them. They're the story of a substitute teacher who happens to be a superhero. Let's face it, all teachers are superheroes.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
she and her son Milton and Milton's best friend Morgan save the world in each book from a very devious classroom ferret who keeps escaping and trying to take over the world, which is based on a true story. It's heavily illustrated. And illustrated, I should say, we were talking about illustrators before.
Hmm.
Alex Lopez, who is insanely great, is in Spain. We have never met. We have never spoken. We have traded Facebook messages a couple of times. I could not think more of him and his work and his creativity. Anything that I put on paper, he makes 72,000% better
Hmm.
by
Hmm.
bringing it to life visually. And I am, the only word is indebted to his creativity, which I say about all my illustrators. But I love, this series. There are five. There's a sixth one in the works, and kids are enjoying them. And it's the Dan Gutman formula of, okay, I've liked that one. I now know the world. I
Hmm.
know I
Hmm.
know the school. I know what's going on. I have an expectation that Noah is going to escape again and cause big trouble as a ferret with devious skills. But let's see what else he's got. And as a reader, that's what I loved. I got to tell you, when I was a kid, we lived down the block from the library. I don't think there was a day that they were open that I wasn't there.
Love it. Love it. Yeah.
That's what I did. In fact, I recently found the Jerry Lewis Book of Magic. And Jerry Lewis was a great TV and film comedian, but he wasn't a magician that I know of. I found the Jerry Lewis Book of Magic that was due in 1967,
Mm.
and I still have it in the basement. And I called the
That's
library
some
and said,
late
I'd
fee.
like to return this, but I don't want to pay the fine. Can I give you a set of my signed books
Hmm.
to assuage my guilt? And they said, we don't want your signed books. People steal signed books. So we have a computer system now. We don't know you have it. Enjoy the book. So
Ah, yeah, yeah. There you go. There you
there
go.
you go.
I still would have said yes to a collection of books as a
There you go.
librarian.
I mean, I just felt terrible because what is that? That's 56 years overdue, which even at 2 cents, and they, in fact, they said they don't charge fines anymore. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, I didn't.
Queensboro Public Library System doesn't charge fines. Kids have to vow to read, I think it's 10 minutes for every day their book is late.
Love that. I love that.
So that's pretty creative.
Love it. I would get like a signed vow sheet. Be like, yes.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
love
go.
it.
Yeah, we did a sign sheet during the pandemic. One of my kids, if we bring a snack in the house, we'll eat 80% of it without any regard to the fact that there are 6 people in this house. So I bought cookies at Costco. It was an 80 pack of mini cookies, and I made a sign up sheet
Nice.
every time he took a cookie, and it was like DK, 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 you know, it's like him for 12 of them. He was signing up. He was still taking just as many, but he was signing up. But
Nice.
let's get kids reading for gosh sakes.
Oh
That's
yeah, absolutely. It just makes the world a better place. It makes people better. And laughter. You talked a lot about laughter. There needs to be some joy in the world. Absolutely.
that's why I'm here. Just call me anytime you need to laugh. I'll tell you no, I got nothing. But but I love wordplay, and I love, somebody says, I mean, there's a way to turn anything into humor. Not that everything deserves to be funny, but
Hmm.
uh, kid once asked me, "Do you have any experience as a human cannonball?" That was a question. That question at the
Hmm.
time. Do you have any experience as a human cannonball? He was trying to get a laugh. So what did I do? I said, "Yeah, but I got fired."
Nice. Quick on your feet. Quick
There
on your
you go.
feet. Yeah.
There you go. They're my feet, and I'm going to be as quick as I can.
Love it. Love it. Well, Alan, it's been a wonderful talk. I would be glad to have you back anytime. I am actually
Back
thinking
tomorrow.
we need to do a sequel.
Let's do tomorrow. I'm free. I got
Yeah.
nothing to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Cool. 11
Hey,
o'clock
listen,
tomorrow.
I thank you. This was a delight, and I hope something I said meant something to somebody.
I'm
And if people
sure.
want to reach out to me, it's alankatzbooks.com or alankatzbooks at AOL.com. Yes, I'm still on AOL. Don't laugh.
It
Because so
works.
many of my books have alankatzbooks at AOL.com in my in the book, and people reach out, kids reach out, educators reach out. And as a special podcast offer, I will take $1 million off the price of any single day school visit.
Fantastic.
Usual price is over $1 million. I will cut that by $1 million. So
Nice. Nice. It's a generous offer, so sign up now.
just who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan of yours and glad to talk anytime. Thanks so
Appreciate
much.
that. Take good care. Be well.
You too. Thanks.
Okay.